That was so loud.
Hey, that was I make it a peepees, and it was allowed. And you know, sometimes you gotta drink a lot of Trulies. So we'll see you guys next week.
Shout outs to the plant. We have a really beautiful plant in here. Shout outs Quan for the plant. No, it feels good to be back. I missed last week, and now to have all the boys together, it seemed a little more crazy than usual, but you know I love that. We got a bunch of trailers coming out. Quan's done an amazing job with some footage. Make sure you check that out. Yeah, we're gonna go see Mission Impossible tonight. I'm sure we'll have a little something for you guys later. So later, peace, see you next week.
What up, y'all? Shout out the new plant in Quan's studio. Appreciate him and all that he does and all the new plants that he brings in. Sonny was really excited about the plant. I needed to make sure I mentioned it. But in all seriousness, it was really fun to have all the guys back on the show this week and talk about the new trailer for Jurassic World and just get into all the things that came out this past week. It was really a lot of fun. And shout out the new plant. Can't forget the new plant.
So, how long you been around here?
Shout out to the plant. Shout out to Quan. Guys, tonight was great. It was a lot of fun hanging out with everybody, busting chops, just like we always do. Got to check out some really cool trailers tonight. We're on our way to see Mission Impossible, the final cruising, or whatever it's called. We're gonna be watching that in a little bit. But again, check us out every Thursday. We're live on the YouTubes, and appreciate you guys. Go read some comics.
You know, we saw a lot of great things this week. We saw the Jurassic Park Rebirth trailer. Bryce Dallas Howard is not in it. I was bummed about that. But you know what made me happy? Me and Sonny came together to pick Paul's book to be the Copper Drop winner. What do those two things have in common? Absolutely nothing. But it sure is great, huh? We had a lot of fun, didn't we? With that said, join us next week. It's gonna be a rock and roll party. I guarantee it. Woo!
Hey guys, thank you for tuning in once again, putting up with us for yet another week. Awesome time. Shout out to everyone who continues to follow us throughout the days. Next week we're gonna have Gorilla Todd and Barney on, and it's gonna be a lot of fun.
Guys, welcome to the episode of Into the West Comics. My name is Frank. Woo! The hot dog, corn dog, Paul is here.
What to do, baby? Back at the table. Haven't been shunned to the
Been shunned.
to the where Shane's at.
A shunning. We'll talk about a possible shunning. No, we won't. I don't know. Brother Marcus is here.
Hey, good evening, everyone.
Aloha to you.
Oh, aloha. Thank you.
Very festive.
Appreciate that. Yeah, Superman.
I like it.
Yeah.
I just realized that I had Superman on it. That's great.
What'd you think those were? The flowers?
Yes?
Yeah, so did I. When you got closer,
Yeah,
I was
that's
like,
what I
oh,
thought
it's a
it was.
Superman shirt. Okay.
I thought it was a floral shirt of some kind. Which it's not that.
I just actually right after I got out, left Gorilla Todd's the other day, I went to that Walmart right there on Shining and Rainbow, and they had this. It was staring right at me. You know, I wasn't even planning on buying
You
it.
were
I was
staring
like,
back.
Yep,
It was meant to be.
it was meant to be. Yeah,
gosh.
same size I needed and everything. I was like, oh, okay, great.
I love when that works out.
It does.
Over there in the lounge, Uncle Nephew Shane is here. Oh, my word.
You like what you see?
That's the best Kangol you've ever worn.
Oh, you like it?
That is nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
actually.
thank
I like
you,
it.
man. I don't mess around when it comes to hats. Everybody knows that.
It puts my black one to shame. It does.
No.
You do
Yours
mess
is
around
so
with everything
festive.
else, though.
Any Kangol is a good Kangol.
That I agree.
Oh, my word. Okay. engine back on course. All right, guys, please welcome our very special guest. He is a screenwriter, a comic book writer, a novel writer,
Trifecta.
all around good-looking guy and tequila lover. Please welcome special guest, Mr. James Robinson.
Woo!
Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
He looks like Robert Palmer. Look at that.
Well, I am addicted to love. But
Oh, hey now.
Fantastic.
Welcome, my friend. Welcome.
Thanks for taking some time to hang out with us. We appreciate it.
That's great to have
fine.
you
That's
here.
fine. I've been meaning to do it for quite a while. I know Marcus spoke to my wife like a year ago.
Oh, it's been that long?
At Alternate Reality. And I always intended at the time, but, things come up, you get busy, this
Sure.
and that.
Absolutely.
But here I am.
Yes, glad to have you, man. Glad to have you. Yeah. And I guess just to start out real quick, because that is a handsome picture that we've been kind of plastering all over
Yeah, it
social
is.
media, that white one.
Oh.
Yes, the stock. Can you give us a little,
Yes, I can.
Yes, please give us a little.
So that happened for all of those ones you see, the black and white ones involved. Actually, I'm going to have a quick sip of this.
Let's do this.
free.
Let's do this. Let's do it.
I
Cheers.
thought you'd never ask.
Into the West.
All right, cheers.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.
How do I get more of that over here, Frank?
You don't. You do not.
Man,
So
It'll float. Yes.
all of those pictures were taken by a photo crew that DC Comics had set up at a convention. It was probably San Diego, but I don't exactly remember. They really do blur into one into the other after a while. But they would send an assistant over to where you were. They'd find you and they'd say, "Come on, it's your turn." And you go to. And it was the same setup and everything else. And they dragged me in, and I was wearing just the scruffiest shit. And I'd been sitting in the conventional day signing, and one of the things you get there's two things you get with when you're in a conventional day signing or doing stuff is at least I become consumed with the idea that I'm going to die bubonic plague because I have shaken so many hands.
Oh, sure.
Right.
And you can just, people, I'm not knocking, people are people. We all have sweat.
Yeah.
But when you grab a hand and shake it, and it feels like the other person has taken it just out of the sink, wet,
Yeah.
and handed it over, you're just like, oh,
Yeah,
what
been there.
have I caught?
Yeah, you're like hand sanitizer.
So you have all this, and you try not to touch your eyes and all that stuff. I look like shit, and they dragged me in, and they just started taking pictures before I was really even ready.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, boy, there's no way these look good. By the way, where are these going to be? They're going to be in every single DC comic. So I said, well, that's no good. So we don't have time to take more time. And I said, what's that form there? Well, that's the release form for you to sign, so we can do this.
Right.
And I said, well, I'm not signing it unless you let me go back to my room, because at night I like to go out, put on a suit, look a bit nicer than the day.
Right.
If I can't go back to my room, put on a suit, come back here, I'll do it super fast, half an hour, get someone else in between. I'm not signing that.
Right.
So I had them over a barrel, luckily. So I went back, and that's why I have that suit on and that slightly smug look on my face. 'Cause I've been trying to wash my hands, do all the things you want to do before you have to focus on
Right.
a photo that everyone in the world's going to see.
Right.
So anyway,
Absolutely.
so there you go.
Nice. Well, it turned out fantastic. Yeah, that one, Grant Morrison did one, which was really cool, where he's dropping a pin, and it looks like he's
I've seen the Morrison one, yeah.
And
Thing about Grant, though, is he kind of pre-dresses for conventions. He always has on his sort of cool outfit. It's a suit, or at one point he was a bit droogy. He'd run around in white jeans and Dr. Martin boots and stuff like that. But he has these looks, so you can literally, drag him any time, and he's kind of ready to go. He's a much more of a showman than I am. Him and Gaiman, they kind of have
that checks out, yeah.
Gaiman will look all fey, and well, now he just look like, ooh, don't say anything bad about me. But back then he was, just like I'm the Dream Lord.
Right.
He does that really well. And Grant Morrison has that cool Glasgow.
right. He had he always had like a turtleneck. I would always see pictures of him with like a turtleneck on or something.
Yes, I remember. I knew him when I first met him. He had hair.
Oh wow.
And
I don't think I've ever seen a picture of him with hair before.
he was a I mean, he's a handsome guy now, but he was a good-looking guy back then.
Okay.
So, you know, some people lose their hair.
Tell
But
me
he hasn't
about
lost his creativity, which is more
Right,
important.
right. I mean, anything he puts his name on, it's incredible.
It is.
So it's very cool to see that. Did all of you guys kind of come into DC at the same time?
No, what happened? I had come out of film school, and I got a job cleaning, like just cash in hand at Titan Books, which at the time was a publisher that mainly was known for reprinting 2000 AD, you know, Judge Dredd and Slouching Dog and that stuff. And the guy that owns Titan Books, Nick Landau, like reveled, I think, in paying people as little as possible. So he would get people, you know, the editor, the designer, and all that, and you get these people. But when you don't pay sufficiently, you kind of get the dregs. So they were getting these people in who were either leaving for a better paying job, or they were just incompetent to begin with, and they were going in and out in like a week. Some of these people. Meanwhile, I'm emptying the bins and polishing the desks and whatnot. And they went, "Can you do that? Can you do a bit of paste up?" And I was like, "Yeah, I do a bit of paste up." So I started to do, you know, I went to art college before I went to film school, so I have, you know, a degree of skill in such things.
Okay.
And can you do a bit of that? And then can you do a bit of like copy editing? You can do a bit of this and a bit of that. And within 10 months, I was the editor of the entire line, and I was still being paid cash in hand. So I wanted to get into film, and I know I didn't want to, you know, work in this basement with this filled with spray mount. It was a calciogenic wonderland. So I didn't want to stay there. And at the same time, there was a smaller independent company called Escape that did kind of like quirky, like British version of like Drawn and Quarterly.
Okay.
Or maybe Fantagraphics. They're more kind of arty stuff. And they were doing their first graphic novel, which was Violent Cases with Neil Gaiman.
Oh, okay.
And Neil, God bless him, loves to swagger around showing off what he's done. So he would kind of come down and talk about Violent Cases, and it was getting closer and closer and closer. And I was like, fuck, I can do that. I can do a graphic novel.
Right.
And so I went off and I found an artist, Paul Johnson,
Right.
and I wrote this graphic novel called London's Dark, which got to the Titan Books. Not through me talking to Nick Landau or pulling any strings myself. It actually got published for the right reasons.
Oh, and that's your first work,
That was my
right?
first work.
Okay, London's Dark.
So that got me to the attention of Archie Goodwin, who was at. The question will be answered, I promise you, about DC.
This is riveting. Don't apologize.
So, Archie Goodwin was at a British comic convention. So was Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner offered me Grendel, having read the black and white photocopy.
Oh wow! Okay.
And that's a sidebar. I ultimately did Grendel, 4 Devils, 1 Hell for Dark Horse. But originally, at the time, Grendel was being published by Comico, and they owned 50% of the property. So I wrote 6 issues of this series for Comico. I think I was paid for 3. And Philip Bond, who's an artist you might know from things, he drew. There's 2 whole issues of that series that were drawn by Phil. They're in his warehouse in England somewhere with all his old Deadline artwork.
Okay.
And Comico went bankrupt. They owned half of Grendel, so Grendel was kind of just stuck. And then it just stayed like that for maybe 3-4 years. And then Dark Horse got into some deal with Matt where they kind of acquired half of the copyright. They bought Comico out, and then he kind of bought that copyright back by working for them until he owned it completely.
Oh.
So in that time, when Grendel was about to start again, so the plan was after issue 40, he was going to stop. I was going to do my stuff, and he was going to take a break and do other things, probably some Mage or Batman or what have you. And then he was going to come back with War Child.
Okay.
And when they started again at Dark Horse, he said, "Look, dude, you can't start with your book if we're relaunching Grendel. It's got to be me.
Right.
So we're going to start with War Child, and then we're going to do your series." So all of that was going on, and Archie was sort of unhappily at Epic Comics, Archie Goodwin. he hadn't yet returned to DC. So at the time, DC had these little fiefdoms amongst their editors, their editor-in-chiefs. And there was the Superman world with Mike Carlin, the Batman world with Denny O'Neil. I forget who was doing the Justice League and stuff like that. And Archie came on and ended up doing like all the cool stuff. But then all of the creators who were English were under the auspice of Karen Berger.
Okay. Vertigo, right?
Well, no, this is years before Vertigo.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have to remember, Vertigo, like, she didn't find Alan Moore. That was Len Wein.
Oh, okay.
He was the one that gave her Swamp Thing. I mean, he was the one that gave Len Swamp Thing.
Okay.
And, Bob Greenberger gave Grant Morrison his first job on Secret Origins.
Okay.
Oh, no, he gave her Doom Patrol. Sorry, that was Bob Greenberger. So, but she kind of took over, and she immediately went after all of the 2000 AD artists and the writers.
Okay.
And she had no interest in any other writers. In fact, this is a story told to me by Dave McKean. But when she first saw Violent Cases, she had no interest in Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
She didn't want him involved in the next project. She wanted Dave McKean. Dave McKean, very loyal, good guy, said, "You want me, you get Neil."
Oh, okay.
So Neil then came up with Black Orchid. I think he said this in interviews, but I remember he told me he was trying to pitch titles so quickly in order to get this thing nailed down, because he felt, I think, a little bit tenuous.
Okay.
So he said Black Orchid, and she heard Black Hawk Kid, like the kid sidekick of Black Hawk, I guess. She had never heard of Black Orchid, although, to be fair, a lot of people hadn't.
Right.
So he did Black Orchid, and obviously his talents became evident. So while he was writing that, he pitched Sandman, and then that's how that happened. But that was all DC.
Okay.
If you think about it, in fact, all of Sandman was DC. Vertigo didn't start till after that. All of Swamp Thing was DC. It was like Preacher and some things that I'm not thinking of were the first Vertigo books.
Okay.
So she had no interest in me whatsoever. So she got Paul Johnson, and Paul Johnson, as opposed to Dave McKean, was like, "I'll take the money, buddy," and he was off.
Right.
So it screwed me a little bit, and she is not someone I have ever liked.
Okay.
I respect what she's done.
Okay.
But I don't necessarily. I would never want to go out to dinner with her.
Okay.
So, and she's just made it so hard for me to get in at DC. It seemed like a joke to her to keep me at bay.
Okay.
And then, luckily, Archie, who was very dissatisfied with Epic, he told me the main reason he quit. I'm just talking crap.
Right.
You can edit whatever you don't want.
We are live, my friend.
Okay, well then I'm in it now, aren't I?
Oh yeah, you're in it.
There was an end of year assessment of what they put out, and he had done this book called Meltdown, which Havoc and Wolverine. It was a painted 4-part epic series.
Okay.
Beautifully done. It was Kent Williams and John J. Muth, and they would do the panels and the pages together. So one of them, Kent Williams, who has a more visceral, what's the word I'm trying to say? Visceral, hard-edged painting style, as opposed to John J. Muth, who's way more mercurial, and he did Moonshadow, very cool, deft handling of paint. So one of them did all the Havoc stuff, and then Kent Williams did all the Wolverine stuff, and the thing sold like 300,000 copies.
Oh wow!
For a big book like that, it was a big success.
Right.
So they did this assessment, and someone said in front of Archie, "Yeah, but wouldn't just think how many thousands more we would have sold if we had good artists?" Meaning, I'm not knocking these artists, but more traditional representational artists, typical Marvel artists.
Oh, okay.
Ron Lim, you know what I mean?
Right.
Good artist, but he's not an epic hand-painted artist.
Right.
So that was the moment that Archie was like, well, they clearly do not have a clue what I'm trying to do, and they don't give a fuck.
Right.
Can I swear on this, or is it?
We try to keep it to a minimum.
Keep it
but
a minimum.
yeah.
I will not swear again. I am English, so we use the F word and indeed the C word very often.
We appreciate you asking.
Yes, thank you for asking.
That's my favorite thing about the English.
No, I appreciate you.
You're good.
So where was I? So she made it really hard. So, but luckily Archie, who had wanted to work with me, we'd already. I did a graphic novel for Epic, though he didn't edit it, called 67 Seconds. And he was trying to find something bigger for me there, and he wasn't happy and everything else. And then he moved to DC, and immediately was like, "Okay, we can finally do. What do you want to do?" And I pitched the Golden Age. And he said, "Well, that's going to take ages for Paul to draw. What else do you want to do? Do you want to do?" Because he was editing Legends of the Dark Knight back then.
Oh.
Do you want to do Legends of the Dark Knight? So
Okay.
we did Legends. I came up with Blades. The first episode. They were all 3-parters back then.
Okay.
Actually, I lied. The first ones were 5-parters, and then mine was 3, and they stayed 3 after that. Funny sidebar there, though. I had made friends through Matt. I had made friends with Tim Sale.
Okay.
And I was like, "What about Tim Sale?" And Archie's like, "Oh my God, that's great. Let's have Tim Sale." And Denny O'Neil said, "There is no way Tim Sale will ever do Batman. He is not a Batman artist."
Really?
How interesting.
Wow.
And of course, Archie, Archie, who was you've heard, if you ever heard stories about Archie Goodwin, he was called the nicest man in comics for a reason. He was the nicest man in comics. But when he was angry, my God, his temper was like Mount Etna.
Right. I bet
what a
you
reference.
listened. You listened when he was angry.
So he convinced Denny to let Tim have a shot, and it was successful. And then apart from it being successful, Jeff Loeb had wanted to work with him more. So he began what's it, Long Halloween?
Right.
So that all started, but that was again, Tim wasn't considered a Batman artist, which was funny.
Right.
So that's how I began to begin at DC, and I always, all these young guys are ambitious. I was ambitious, and I saw how writers made a name for himself by taking characters who were either cancelled or close to cancellation and then turning them around and making something good.
Okay.
And it happened over and over again. I mean, Swamp Thing was about to be cancelled.
Right. Alan.
Daredevil was bi-monthly. It was on the verge of being cancelled when Frank Miller took it over.
Oh.
That's why back in the day, if you ever saw those old comics, there was a full-page ad for coming soon, Frank Miller doing Doctor Strange. Because that was also a bi-monthly book. So he would have had time, and then just about that time, the Daredevil just exploded, and then it became a monthly book, and he couldn't do Doctor Strange.
Okay.
But
That's
he
very
he
interesting.
took this character that was kind of on the way out. Grant Morrison did Animal Man, which very few people. Yeah, but did you? Oh, well,
No one cared.
You're young enough you would have just known Animal Man, but for someone older, it was 5 issues in Strange Adventures that no one cared about.
Right. Right.
Sandman, pretty radical change, but again, no one cared about that. And I was sort of always onto that idea. So Starman was, I always had this idea of the lineage of Starman, the fact that every other Justice Earth 2 character, there was a sense of the passing of the baton, from Jay Garrick to Barry Allen or Alan Scott to Hal Jordan. And there wasn't with Starman. They just kind of came up with a new idea, plopped it down, put it up the flagpole.
Right.
No one ever saluted, and then So I sort of tried to do that. I will say this though, Bobby Chase, who was an editor at Marvel, nice woman. I don't know that. I never really thought she got it, but she's done all right with her life, in comics. But I basically kind of pitched a sort of a weird version of the vibe of Starman, because to me, the vibe of Starman back then especially was like if you turned on the radio, Tom Waits would be playing. Always. Tom Waits was playing. I don't know if you guys know. You don't know? Do you know Tom Waits?
I know the name. I can't. Yeah.
Well, he's sort of his music has evolved, but he used to just have this epic kind of jazzy, orchestrated hobo jungle mixture of beat poetry, and he's still that more or less. But then there was it just sort of I loved it when I was younger, growing up. So it was always in the background. And some of the ideas I had for Starman, I pitched. I was asked to come up with a Doc Samson miniseries, And I had all these ideas for Doc Samson and sort of a lovable rogue out of the Grandmaster. The head of the Circus of Crime, the Ringmaster.
Okay.
With his hypnosis
Right.
top hat. And there was all these other ideas, and they were really kind of like dark,
mystical
horror stuff.
Right.
And she said, no, I want Doc Samson that's big, green-haired, beaten up monsters.
Right.
So we parted ways, but all of that stuff ended up going into Starman. So
Okay.
actually, it's funny that whole comic could have been a Marvel, something at Marvel.
Right.
But, things happen where they're meant to happen.
And that, over 80 issues. That was very
80 issues.
Yes. And it ended, if I'm not mistaken, it ended in the Blackest Night event.
No, well, it didn't. No, that
like
wasn't
81.
That wasn't 81. That wasn't necessarily. It ended with 80.
Okay.
There is no need to read 81.
Okay.
But I don't mind that.
Right.
I'm proud of it.
Right.
Jack's story ends with. They're like, well, who we bringing back? He said, it could be Jack, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no way is Jack Knight ever going to come back.
Right.
So the idea of making it, David and everything else, and I forget who drew it. It was a Spanish artist and a good guy.
Right.
But it was Bill Sienkiewicz who inked it, who added that Bill Sienkiewicz-esque thing that only he does.
Right.
So it actually had a really nice feel visually. It's a cool book.
Yeah, it was very. I remember that issue being very different from the main sort of Blackest Night event. It was very more abstract, a little more sketchier, grittier.
Well, in Starman, I did I don't know, two of those other crossovers, maybe three, and I always tried to. I had to do them. I mean, you can't do that book and say I'm above it. You have to do it.
Right.
So I'd always try and come up with interesting points of view. The one where the sun goes out, whatever that was called. I remember just having everybody in the comic, the sun goes out, and they're all like, what the F happened? The sun's gone out.
Right.
And then the sun comes back, and I always try to make it sort of interesting in its own, in a unique way, and not just, a lot of those books, those crossover books, the writers, I felt anyway, often tend to just like come up with the easiest thing they can come up with. And
is that hard? It's like when you're balancing, like if you're trying to do something that ties into some type of event that they're trying to do.
Well, it depends how the event is. Sometimes the events are good. Oh, so one that I did do that was, I think, really good, and my issue was really good, was the Grant Morrison one with all the Justice League
Final
from the far
Crisis?
future. No, from the future.
Oh,
Justice League,
a million,
10,000 or something.
Justice League, it was like a million or something.
Million, Justice League, a million.
Yeah, because there's a Starman. Yeah, Starman 1 million. Andrew Robinson.
Well, it was Peter Snaberg.
I was like, how do I pronounce that? Peter Snaberg.
He did a beautiful issue.
Yes.
And actually, ultimately, the future Starman is the traitor who's behind it all.
Oh, okay.
And I sort of sensed that was where it was going, so I gave the character this sort of complex moral compass where he's not quite sure where to aim or what direction to move in. Right. And I think it worked really nicely.
Yeah, absolutely. You had Bill Sienkiewicz.
May I have a line?
Oh, absolutely. The inker was Bill Sienkiewicz. Tony Harris, who does an amazing job on cover art.
Yes.
For that issue 81 Blackest Night. That's super cool. Man, just an epic storytelling. The father-son relationship in that book is beautiful. I know there's other podcasters out there that wish that Starman was more highlighted, I guess you could say, because I remember before they came out with the compendiums, there was a big push within a certain sect of us who were in the know who wanted an omnibus, but they came out with those little like hardcovers that were called omnibus.
They came out with paperbacks first,
right?
And I had the brilliant idea, dumb idea, to do half of the Times Pass, to not put the Times Pass in the comic.
Okay.
But to collect the Times Pass, there's about 12 of them.
Uh-huh.
So do half of them first and then do half of them later.
Mm-hmm.
But the people in charge of like collections at the time, I mean, I don't know, maybe even now, and at the time they just didn't really care.
They
They
didn't
just did
care.
their job.
Mhm.
You know, I don't think any of them took the books home and went, "Wow, what am I doing? Collecting these wonderful stories for to be treasured forever." I think they went
Right.
home and, you know, watched the Knicks play. They didn't, you know, care. I mean, that's life, you know.
Right,
I mean,
right.
For every,
It happens.
Right.
we all think that everybody in comics is just in love with it, but
Yeah,
for
procreate,
everyone that
creation,
is, there's
yeah.
5 of them that just want to,
Just want a paycheck.
just got a paycheck.
Right.
I get the same looks from friends and family that are not connected to comic books that I start talking about comic books. I get the same looks when I was 14 that I do now, only I get them now from my son.
Oh,
So it's come full circle.
does your son like comics?
He does. He's more into like Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering and those
Yeah.
kind of things.
Yeah.
But he does like comics. He's not a regular reader. Yeah.
Right.
But he likes comics. He's
How old
gone
is
to
he?
27.
Oh, I was imagining some little lad on your. No, Dad, I don't want to
No,
read that.
but you know what? I was going to say this though, James, is that he had a problem, like he could not get into reading, and I took him to a comic shop and I said, "Just what do you like? I know you like Star Wars. Go find Star Wars comics." That's how I got him engaged in reading in general, and now he's like he reads all the time.
Nice.
But that's what got him locked in.
Wow.
Was pushing the comics first because he didn't care otherwise.
Well, I had a similar situation except in reverse with my father. I started reading and read all the things I read now. I continued reading comics, kind of unlike Jonathan. But I was kid. The death of Superman was a couple years old at this point, but I was like 5 or 6 years old. Hadn't obviously how many 5 or 6 year olds read,
Right.
But
right. Not.
yeah, I know I'm young. Sorry.
Right.
But my dad said, read Death of Superman and all this other stuff I have in this drawer. And that got me into reading, and it made me an avid reader of comic books and all things as I got older.
yeah.
How about you, Shane? What got you in reading? Because you were.
My brother was a huge X-Men fan.
Oh, okay.
So that's what got me into it. At that end, my high school friends dug the weirdest comics ever when I was younger, or when I was in high school. After I got out of high school, that's why I grabbed like Preacher and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's what Doug used to like, that kind of thing, or was it weirder?
Preacher, the Spectre was a big thing for us. Just not your normal.
Yes.
And then next thing you know, I was reading Superman every day. Right. When John Byrne took over Superman, then I was reading Superman all the time.
Right.
You
So James, when you once you finished Starman, did that almost kind of like in like the film sort of terminology, did that typecast you as being that guy
No.
like who can pluck obscure characters and turn them
Well,
around?
at DC it kind of did. I mean, I was the one that talked them into bringing back the Justice Society.
Oh, okay.
Right.
They were like done. They were like, we
Right.
don't want to use those guys, but they're old. They're getting older every year because they're linked to the war. You can't kind of age them up like you can,
Right.
a 60s character from Marvel.
Right.
But I convinced them to do it again, and they were convinced it wouldn't work, and it did. And it was only that I was going through a divorce and I was kind of suffering from depression that I couldn't, because I was also I was still working on Starman, that I quit writing it with David Goyer and handed the reins over to Jeff, who was a little up-and-comer.
Jeff Johns.
So that, Mike Carlin once said that I may have changed comics forever. So
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. Aside
I have
from
one of them too.
aside from the the somewhat depressing circumstances, I mean Jeff Johns, I mean he's been killing it. Absolutely, he took over Justice Society, JSA, made that into a phenomenal series.
Well, it was already a phenomenal series. He
Yeah,
just
it was.
kept it.
of course. Well, yeah, I think what you're saying is I don't know if there's a single writer over the last 15-ish years that has had the same kind of impact that Johns has. So
No, I agree. He's actually listed after Robert Kanigher as having written more DC comic books than anyone else.
Really?
I think that checks out, I guess, though.
Yeah, it does.
There was a period of time there where Johns was writing anything.
He's
On a
writing
smaller
everything.
level, Williamson kind of writes everything for DC now, but
He writes a ton of
he writes a ton of
Yeah,
stuff.
who's
yeah.
that? Williamson?
Joshua Williamson. He's writing Superman now.
he's the guy now. Yeah.
Yeah. But I wanted to ask you, I know you have a lot of screenwriting credits, you have the comics, you have novel here we'll talk about in a little bit.
Yeah.
I wanted to know if your process for writing a screenplay or writing a comic, whatever the script for that looks like, is the process different? Is it the same? And how do you approach writing different things?
Well, I mean, if you're used to writing fiction, you know, be it, I guess, romance fiction or, you know, medical dramas or whatever, there's certain dramatic structure, and it has some leeway, you know. But basically, you have 3 acts. Some say 5 acts, but you definitely have acts. And in comics, because there's an episodic element where the act can be the end of the comic, or it could be the end of 3 parts. There's sort of a weird shorthand to comic book writing that you pick up, and it just becomes instinctual because it's a relatively small piece of writing, 20 pages, 22, 24 pages. And also, as long as you have an accord with your artist and your editor, what you imagine is going to be very close to what is published. You have to allow for, you know, the artist's own expression and their style. But, you know, if you're smart, you know what you're dealing with before you write the script. With films, it's a bigger, much bigger tapestry. You do have to stick to some elements of a 3-act structure. You have to get everything approved first by executives. And therein can be the problem.
Right.
Because when you start off in a studio, you're given a creative executive, and you go back and forth, and you come up with, you know, you have the idea. He helps you to, if he's a good creative executive, he helps you to flesh it out, make it better. If you're unfortunate to get a bad one, it can kill the project. But if you have a good one, you get to a certain point. It's often when the studio says, we're making this movie. Then suddenly there's like 6 producers that you have never met who appear out of the woodwork, and they're all producers on this project. And suddenly they're giving you notes.
And they have say, right.
And you're like, what the hell happened here? It's just part of the scene. So comic books is more your thing. I'm not really asking you a question. I'm not really answering your question very well.
No, I think you are.
There is a formula to writing screenplays. There's a formula to writing comics. If you're a storyteller by nature, you can kind of like work it all out and do it all. But they do require different kind of they do require different strategies. They do require different that's not the right word, is it?
Techniques?
No, techniques. No, it's just formalizing the idea before you start writing. It requires a different set of things you have to kind of keep your eye on.
Okay.
It's also unfortunate you're talking to me now and not 20 years back, because now I've been doing it so long that so much of it is second nature that you're trying to get me, you know, you ask a chef how do you get that certain fluff in an omelette?
Right.
And he's sort of forgotten how to do that. He just knows how to do it.
Second nature.
Right.
So unfortunately, it's the same in that storytelling, beginning, middle, and end. You come up with the idea. Sometimes you come up with the end of it, and you have to kind of make it all work. Sometimes you come up with the beginning. Sometimes the best way is when you get the emotional through line. When you get that, all the other stuff kind of works around and comes together, and it's the best way. They're the stories that you remember.
Right.
You know, most of the action in most action movies, you don't kind of remember it, but you remember the moment where Tony Stark died, or you remember,
right.
You know.
Well, that's kind of what you were saying about The Killer earlier. There's not that emotional through line and not as memorable for you.
No, it wasn't. I have a love-hate relationship with David Fincher, because while I love a lot of his films, I also feel that he acts like this dilettante that is above the studio. So he's always sort of criticizing them and everything else. He criticized Alien. I mean, but the bottom line with something like that is he took the job. He didn't lay a bunch of conditions down. So if I can't do this, I'm not doing it. And then say, okay, I'm not doing it, and left the project. He took the project. And one of the things you have to remember with studios is that it is made up of a lot of sometimes quite painfully talentless people who do not have a clue about story. I mean, and I'll say that, but there's also a lot of,
You can say it again,
there
please.
There is a lot of very, very sensible, intelligent, creative people that know story and they help these movies get made.
Right.
But for every one of those, you're going to meet two that they just want to meet an actress and get a date, or they just want to, have enough money to have a nice apartment on Beverly Boulevard and pay for their Coke bill.
Get a date is one way of putting it.
So,
Right.
Right.
You still need the water?
What was I saying, by the way?
You're talking about
the creatives, producers, the emotional through ride.
I think Paul gave him the most
James is starting to
detailed
sound like
question.
us.
just about the film industry and how
Paul gave him a
storytelling.
question
What's
that
what are
crazy.
the similarities and differences?
You
Yeah.
trying to throw shade at my question, Shane? Is that what's happening right now?
I'm saying it was a brilliant question,
Oh,
but I'm
thank
telling you,
you.
it's
All
tough
right.
to answer that one.
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of, you work out how to do one, you work out how to do the other. And some of it overlaps and some of it doesn't.
Yeah.
Oh, David Fincher.
Yes.
Go ahead.
So the thing that bothers me about that guy is those kind of attitudes where the studio, whether they are all talentless,
Yeah.
it's still
I
there.
love you, by
It's-
the way. You're absolutely amazing. I love you, man.
Well, I'm older. So
I know that's the best.
don't
Like,
give a
listen,
damn, you know,
that's
nowadays.
fine.
Yeah.
But they are
cool.
still paying you. It's their money.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
if you want to have creative freedom, go find a bunch of dentists that want a tax write-off, like the Coen brothers did with the first movie with Blood Simple. Don't come to Fox and then say, "Oh, they won't let me do my version." Well,
they're
you know
paying
what I
for
mean.
it.
You gotta.
Yeah.
Were
gotta
you
be
were you
accountable.
cool? Oh, real fast. Were you cool with League of Extraordinary Gentlemen? Were you cool with
really.
everything they did? I know that's why I wanted to ask you. How cool were you with what they did?
Well,
to your
that
initial
was
idea?
that was the ground zero of producers coming out of nowhere. So I wrote that.
Okay, go ahead.
I wrote that script.
This is what I want to
It's a
hear.
very different script. I'm starting a website, and I'll have that for people to look at.
Okay.
The original script,
Oh wow. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
and it was very different. It was set in Hell's Kitchen. It was literally everything about it was different.
Okay.
And the one bit that was the same was the recruitment of Quatermain in the African club.
Right.
And they talk, and the other guy pretends he's Quatermain, and then he gets killed, and there's a big fight. There was that bit.
Right.
And Connery read that, and he was like, "That was when I knew I wanted to be Alan Quatermain." So, so he
That's your
he's a
God bless us.
very nice.
he and I got on very well, by the way.
Oh. I
Oh,
bet.
nice.
Yeah.
The director and he did not like each other, but
Oh, okay.
he and I got on very well.
Good.
So he was doing it, and the movie was all getting ready and everything else, and then 9/11 happened.
Okay.
And the big evil kind of James Bond death ray of the 1900s that I came up with was sort of a flesh-eating gas that kind of stripped people to their skeletons, but their clothes were immaculate. You'd still your skeleton with that beautiful white shirt,
Right.
but then there'd be nothing else between.
That's awesome.
And so they said, and then the mystery is, well, even if they were going to explode it in New York in the 1900s, and the mystery was, well, if they're going to do that, they're going to kill some people. It's not really going to like destroy New York.
Right.
But I had found out that all of the tunnels, they hadn't laid all the tracks and stuff, but all the tunnels for the subway were now dug. So they were going to pump it all through the tunnels. So there's a big ending in the tunnels and blah, blah, blah. And then 9/11 happened. And to be fair, the day after 9/11, people didn't know if there was going to be another in Chicago. They were gonna
Absolutely.
bring
Right.
it.
Yeah.
Sure. Right. Right.
So they said, we can't, oh, thank you very much. We can't invest this much money in something and then we can't release it because there's been some horrible gas. Oh, because there was Saran gas attack in Tokyo on the subway.
Oh, that yes.
So that was in their minds too, that something like that might happen.
Okay.
But Connery was still on board. So the movie, if you got Sean Connery and he wants to make a movie, you're making the movie.
Right. That checks out.
So
Right.
they said, well, we're going to just do a script, James. But unfortunately, by then, like the director was involved, Tom Rothman, the head of Fox, was involved. Hutch Parker, his second, was involved. Everybody involved.
Okay.
And everyone had an opinion, and it just got this. So even though I wrote it, there was so many notes. I don't feel like it's my script, and it's just
too many cooks.
Right.
too many cooks. And then the final nail in the coffin of the film for me was that Steve Norrington was always a very prickly. I mean, he was nice to me, but he was very prickly, and want to have tantrums and stuff like that. Very emotional fellow. And he wasn't getting on during the editing process, so he quit.
Oh.
So like they had me in to help to talk to the editor about editing the movie. I mean, they were kind of at a loss. And at the same time as this movie that was supposed to be this sophisticated movie, I had said to them, even when I started, I said, honestly, if you want something that's true to Alan Moore,
Right.
this really should be made by like BBC like, late at night with like cool British character actors,
Right.
crap like Doctor Who level effects,
Okay.
but with that good story. That's the version that would be true to Alan Moore.
Right.
And he and obviously they were like, well, we're not doing that. So the version they came up with. So what happened was X-Men 2 came out, and that was just a runaway hit.
Oh, okay.
Even more so than X-Men.
Okay.
I think that was right. Yeah, X-Men 2.
Yeah, that's,
I'm sure.
that timeline lines up. Yeah.
And so they decided we're going to take out all of the sort of more risque elements of dialogue and stuff, and we're going to do a Victorian X-Men. Now, that's a fine thing to aspire to, but you've got to go in there with that intention. You can't create it in the editing room later.
Oh, okay.
When you're in the middle of the process.
When you're in the middle of the
Right,
process.
right. Everything's shot
So
and
the book,
everything.
so the film came out, and there were people that loved that movie. I was surprised.
I mean, it has its bright spots.
Yeah, what's that?
I said it has its bright spots for sure.
But it isn't the movie that I originally wrote or pitched or any of that.
Yeah.
And there were,
It's not horrible, but I did dig what just the characters themselves. I dug all that, I dug all the characters in the movie. I actually dug the whole thing as a whole, as you were saying that it might have been overdone.
Yeah, and then the director Steve had this idea that everything had to be his vision.
Right.
So for instance, like I don't think he read the comic.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think he could have possibly read the comic because, like, he did the Museum of League the League's museum with all the past stuff from all the past members, Ivanhoe and Scarlet Pimpernel and whoever.
Yeah.
And none of that was sort of there, and I was like, what is this? This isn't what was in the comic, and he didn't care. When I described in the original script the Nautilus, it was on. I don't think you could have got a better written description of what Kevin O'Neill did with the vessel, because it's brilliant. It's one of the most brilliant pieces of designs, the Kevin O'Neill Nautilus. And instead they did this sort of strange. He wanted this strange sort of destroyer, big thing, and it worked, I guess. But it just wasn't what I had originally intended.
You mentioned Alan Moore, and I know he's notoriously prickly about adaptions of his work. Did you speak to him at all when you were writing the film?
No,
or
he had no interest, and I'm sure he would look at me now with utter contempt. Quite rightly, I suppose. That first script, I was trying so much to keep his vision.
Right.
Bring it to the other problem with even the version I did was that when they got the rights and were doing it, only the first 6 issues had come out.
Okay.
Now, talking about story structure, the amassing of the League takes 4 issues of those 6 issues.
Okay.
But in classic film structure, getting the team together would be the first act.
First act, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So then the second act is revealing the villain and what he wants and how they defeat them. And in the comic, it's done sort of very obliquely. There's just a sort of fight in the sky with people in giant Chinese, because Fu Manchu is the villain.
Uh-huh.
People with kites fighting Moriarty's thugs or something. I forget. But we couldn't have Fu Manchu either because that was considered racially insensitive.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came up with this sort of Prussian, because there was this sort of Prussian in history of leading up to the First World War. The Prussians were like very pro-militaristic, and they were kind of like neo-Nazis with a lot more epaulets and horses. So so I sort of came up with a villain that worked, but I had to kind of flesh out 2 whole acts and change the villain, and they wanted a young person, so I brought in Tom Sawyer. And you know, it wasn't an easy book to translate, and I wish that the second one had come out with the Martians, and that probably would have what we would have done instead, which would have been probably easier
to adapt.
Celebrate. Yeah, played out a little different that way.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Man.
Shane,
what's up? What can I do for it? Before we do anything, I'd like to propose a toast to our guest, who has been absolutely fantastic.
Like I'm blown away.
I am too. I think you're just amazing. Hi, everybody. He's a fine storyteller. Hi, come on, everybody.
Yeah, yes, I agree. I agree. We rarely get the inside.
That's what I'm saying.
Stuff that, because we know, if you know anything about the history of comics,
man,
there's a lot of, there's a lot of stuff that we don't get to see as the, as the
normal schlub.
Well, even
we're schlubs.
We sat down with Philip Kennedy Johnson and Patrick Horvath and some of the newer guys, but they don't have the same kind of understanding of being there while it happened. Like, so it's nice to hear all that.
I break my comic store owner, our friend Ralph's heart.
Yes. Yeah. Shout out to Ralph, alternate
because
reality.
He will bring up somebody, and I love the moments when I go, oh my God, that guy's great. What a great guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm often like, that guy's just an asshole.
Such as?
And I'm not just like mean. I'll say why. And it's you can see a little piece of his soul.
You're just like, oh.
You broke the illusion a little bit for him.
Yeah.
Come on. Ralph is a tender man. How could you do that to him?
I've known Ralph. He was... I first met Ralph at San Diego before he had a comic store.
Oh, okay.
Really?
Yeah, I've known him. I mean, I've been around, man. What's his name? Al Pacino in Scent of a Woman. I've been around.
You've been around, man.
Yeah, shout out to Ralph, alternate reality.
All right, here's to
Cheers to you,
Ralph.
James.
Cheers to everybody.
Absolutely.
Everybody.
Thank
This
you
has
very much,
been absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely.
Love you guys.
Oh,
for
man.
this. Good
All right,
job,
Shane.
Frank.
The good thing is...
Frank, good job.
Yeah.
The good thing is that I have walked home high on E
Yeah, me too.
from the usual place
Oh.
a couple of times. I'm that close to you guys.
Wow.
Are you serious?
Yeah,
Yes.
really. I live very close.
Oh, wow.
So, I'm promoting. I've got new books to promote,
Cool, man.
so I can come back.
Oh, yeah.
Anytime you
Absolutely.
want.
And we will have you back.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Do not fret.
Well, yeah, bring the E for God's sake.
Oh well, I'm
doing?
trying not to. I'm trying to be a good boy.
Screw that. What are we doing? We're come on. We're all virile. Bring the E next time.
Okay. Do you really want a whole thing of this on MDMA? Do you want to do that?
Well, maybe not that.
We had a coworker. Shane, remember you?
Yeah.
The coworker is taking the
Bro.
MDMA. He's taking naps, put a cigarette in his mouth. He like slept through the whole
He
thing.
slept through. Put weird
He was
hats on
out.
his head. He was out
James,
cold.
he was out.
Well,
Fantastic stuff.
You know, that sort of separates the men from the boys.
Exactly.
He
Agreed.
probably woke up 2 days later, very rested. Shane, we're gonna get into a little bit of cop and drop.
It's
Cop and
called
drop it.
Cop or Drop.
Drop.
You drunk fool.
Watch this.
Maybe
James.
I'm on E.
All right, everybody.
Go ahead.
This is the show right
All right,
here.
grab your stuff. Get out your books, schnooks. It's time once again for our show. Our show? Our segment of a show. It's time once again for Cop or Drop! You got 2 minutes! 2 minutes to tell us why your book is the reason we should read it. If you don't got the goods, we're going to throw you right out that door. It's simple as that. I'm going to get up out of my chair and physically throw you out the door. So let's do this. You have your books and you got 2 minutes. Let's do this right now. Paul!
I didn't expect to go first. I never go first.
Well, I know. Quan 59, do you have the 2-minute counter? The lovely and talented Quan 59.
Puppy dogs. We got
Grab
puppy dogs again.
grab a 2-minute
Puppy
counter.
dog timer.
It might be the puppy dog timer.
Oh,
Yep,
man.
puppy-
Oh, God,
puppy
I
dog
hope
timer.
so. That's our favorite. All right, Paul. Ready, set, go.
I lost 7 seconds. So the first book I'm going to talk about is Be Not Afraid, #1. It's written and has art from individuals I have never read or seen anything from. Jude Ellison Doyle and Lisandro Estherin. And it's kind of the story of this woman who wished for a child, maybe got one from an angel, and maybe it's not what she expected, and maybe she's now asking God to maybe get rid of this child.
Oh my gosh.
The art is...
You want us to read this?
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. The
all
art
right, fine.
is
I'm down.
appropriately haunting and kind of feels like a dream state, almost similar to a lot of the early Sandman comics, I would actually say, in style. And I just think it's fantastic, and I'm very excited to read the second issue when it comes out. The second book I have is Absolute Martian Manhunter, and this has, absolutely, no pun intended, been the best of these Absolute books that have been coming out. Dennis Camp and Javier Rodriguez are just killing it. It is... All of the books, the Absolute books, have been good. Yeah. This one feels like something completely new. Yes, it's Martian Manhunter.
Sure.
Yes, it's John Jones.
Sure.
or John Johns. But it feels like Jones. I don't know.
John Johns. Yeah, John Johns.
Is it John
But
Johns?
it feels
Yeah,
like
John
something
Johns.
new, and it has white Martians in it. But there's other things going on, and it feels like a new, fresh take on this character. And I just think it's absolutely fantastic. And the last book I'll touch on quickly is
You have 22
Batman
seconds.
Hush 2, issue 3. I think after the first 3 issues, this book has grown on me. I think it's actually pretty solid what Jeff Loeb and Jim Lee are doing. It feels like it's 20 years too late, maybe, and I think that might be the issue. But the art is fantastic, and it feels like he's going somewhere with the story.
All right,
That's awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah,
You're
that's
done. All right, who's next? Let's see. Franklin. Franklin, you are next. Lovely and talented Quad 59. Hit that 2-minute counter. Go!
All right. You know my emotional relationship there is with kind of abusive relationship there is with Amazing Spider-Man.
Sure.
I think that there's been a really good pairing here with Joe Kelly and Pepe Larraz. This is a heavy action-based issue.
great.
Peter Parker is working with Rand Industries, and there's a fire towards the end of the last issue. Hobgoblin is rushing in, and we talk a lot about the writers. We talk a lot about the artists, but there are some ridiculous spreads here with Pepe Larraz's work.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
And also, I'm trying to find the thing for
Very
the
nice.
lettering. That big thwip you see there.
Very nice. That's a
Yes.
fine thwip.
Yes.
And the zap.
Lovely thwip.
Like he's gonna
All the
electrocute him.
onomatopoeias.
I love
Zap.
it. It's good stuff. Oh, swimsuit issue, Marvel. No, okay, sorry, but there's a lot of
Playboy.
action here. Pepe Larraz does a great job. We are moving to John Romita Jr. for the next couple issues. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know, but we'll see.
Cool.
No,
Quickly.
no comment. And then
50 seconds.
also I was going to mention a cosmic chess match with all kinds of ridiculous cast.
So, and
The
what?
Hulk family, Star-Lord, Nova. This is if you're into Jonathan Hickman,
Which I
look
am.
no further than Imperial.
Right.
This is a
Is that Peach Momoko?
Peach Momoko variant cover there.
Very
the art is
nice.
done by 2 artists, Iban Coelho and Federico Vincenti.
Very nice.
Great layouts with all of this and art.
Woo!
Love all this right here.
Very sexy.
Like I said, a cosmic chess match. Also, you're mentioning Vertigo coming back. Dennis Camp is going to be doing one of the books for the new Vertigo.
Dope.
Very
that's
nice.
dope.
That's really good.
James, you brought something that you could tell us
Oh,
about?
this is not really for this. It's just
Okay.
for that I'm.
You can still present.
I've written
it, yeah.
a graphic novel. A prose novel,
Yes.
and this is in its beta form. I'm still deciding when I will do a Kickstarter for it. I'm
Right.
getting the cover done. It'll be a really cool looking paperback. It'll look like an old door paperback, science fiction.
Okay.
Sounds fantastic.
And
Go ahead and
But this is the
pull
B-
it.
the B-
Show
give us
the
at
interwest.
least
Yes.
a little
Yeah.
So it's called the Singular Pair,
Okay.
and it is basically Fafhrd and the Grey Mouser, that kind of city. This city is called Ascanir, and it's a little bit like King's Landing and Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones. Yeah.
That kind of world with palaces and thieves' quarters and all of that stuff. And there is a truthsman, which is what they would call the equivalent of a private detective, someone that you hire to get answers when no one else can find those answers. And his
intriguing.
And his female bodyguard fighter, who is equally smart in her own way, but she's sort of super keen to like hurt people that might be a threat.
Marcus.
And they argue all the time. They banter all the time. So it's a little bit like
So some tension there.
it's a bit like Sherlock Holmes meets the Thin Man meets Fafhrd the Grey Mouse. And it is a locked room mystery in a castle where the entire city could destroy itself if the answer doesn't present itself.
Wow. Very intriguing. And it's
love
not
it.
quite available yet? Or
Not quite
it's-
available yet, but it's I only have a few betas left. But I thought I would bring one. One of you can read it first, pass it around.
Okay. Very
And
cool.
then
That'd be
Yes,
great.
in a
absolutely.
few weeks, a few months, when The Adventures of Lumen N, the last of my Darkest books, comes out,
Okay.
maybe I'll come back.
back,
You can
yeah.
tell me how wonderful it
come
is.
back.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And you'll have read about it.
So far, you're doing great.
will.
Patra was great. Los Monstros just started. Wonderful. Rogue's Kingdom, which is your Kickstarter. That first issue was great. I'm looking forward to issue 2.
Well,
whenever
the second issue is the artwork's incredible. You don't forget Welcome to the Maynard.
yes, welcome to the
Which
main art.
is unlike the others because it's such a sort of almost. It's not what people. It's not, like you're looking at these books and they're all, Marvel, DC, Vertigo, Boom, but that kind of slightly European, clean line style.
Right.
People aren't doing a lot of that now, and I wanted to do something that was fun.
Right.
Jay Bone has already kind of laid out the next one.
Nice.
So, I mean, it's something we want to keep going. So,
Okay.
hopefully, you guys will.
Be on the lookout for that.
Yeah.
Welcome to the main art, and it was really good. It kind of. I used to like watching like British comedies that would be syndicated on public access. So like, for some reason, Are You Being Served? That old British comedy kind of came to mind. It was like just
right.
where you're just like at a hotel and you got these weird, funny characters that are just kind of having to put up with each
Yes.
other.
Well, it's a bit of that, yes. With Kramer, the mean assistant manager, but even he
Right.
in the next one, you'll see he has a whole backstory, and we're leading into the second arc, which is I love lock room mysteries.
Okay.
So this is a magical lock room mystery in the San Francisco Maynard Hotel, but you actually find out that there's a link to the Osaka Hotel. Like there's a chain, like the Hiltons.
Oh, gotcha.
So there is a magical Osaka hotel with all the sort of Japanese demons and all of that stuff as the people that stay there.
Cool. All right, let me do. Am I ready? Am I ready, Shane?
You are ready to go, sir. Marcus, you're up. Hit it.
All right, so everyone's excited about the new Superman movie and who's going to be, all the plethora of characters that are going to be introduced. One of them is going to be Mr. Terrific, and so they kind of started to take the lead on that with issuing a miniseries called Mr. Terrific Year One to get everyone acquainted with everything. Phenomenal issue. It starts off with his boy Dre. Everybody has a boy named Dre for some reason. I don't get it, but his boy Dre is at his apartment and he's kind of in a funk, as far as being an inventor. So he's kind of going through a little depression moment, and he just sold his company off to another individual who's now vying for public access via the city council to propagate her technology to make the world a better place, right? Well, it turns out there's more to it than that, and so she is it looks like there's some nefarious intent with it, and so Dre is going out to seek the truth while Mr. Terrific is trying to get over his little depression phase of it. It's a really great setup. It ends in a kind of a cliffhanger, so this is cool. And honestly, from what I heard, this was Mr. Terrific was supposed to be actually a TV show. So I'm not exactly sure if this is part from it or if this is extracted from that
You're gonna
idea.
get shown out, you know.
I
This is
don't
30
know.
seconds left. You got more to do.
But anyway.
Hurry up, man!
And then the last
You got
one is The
27
Killer.
seconds left.
The Killer is back. This is Affairs of State Part 2. This is another arc of this great this great story that's been translated into English from European creators. This is about a very adept assassin who reluctantly fall into the trade. Let's start it.
James knows the rules better than Marcus knows these rules.
I don't like those rules.
The first time here, you knocked out of the park.
Yeah, James is like, hey, you better hurry up, bro.
Question for you with Los Monstros. When you decided to make a werewolf a detective, was there a debate amongst yourself?
No. That's an odd question. Why would there be a debate?
Because, werewolf is, scary.
Werewolves are scary? Well, they're all monsters. I mean, that's the point. But I mean, I will get into the idea that he's there are different kinds of werewolves. As he'll mention that in issue 4. So we're lucky that he can change back and forth. There's a whole bunch of them that kind of just walk around being pissed off for 26 days a year, and then they become werewolves.
I think the concept is great. So,
well, I'm already writing the second arc with Jesus.
Oh, cool.
Where the main character, I mean, Perry's in it, but the main character will be Clyde. Oh, you haven't met Clyde yet? Damn, that's issue 2.
Oh, wait a minute. We got a little.
Say no more.
When he was a cop,
See what I did.
his partner, and they both got kind of busted together, and they were innocent. They busted together. Is a man monster.
Okay.
And he's just a big. But the problem with Clyde is after he was busted, right as they were busted, he tried to break up a robbery in a liquor store, and he got shot in the head. And that's the one part of a man monster you can't replace because it changes who they are. They're a different person. You put a different brain in. So he's this mentally handicapped man monster that remembers when he was smarter than Perry. He used to be this really smart.
So Shane is in this comic. Okay.
Come on, man.
We always manage, every time we get a creator on here, we always get him manage to get him talking enough to just tell us a little bit more about the next thing that's coming out.
That is great.
Nice little nugget
You'll be
there.
out soon.
Do that.
No,
so
that's great, though.
he's the main one in the second series, and then Perry comes back in the third. I don't know why I fell in love with just writing Perry. He's just cool, and he's kind too. I as you get older, like Warren Ellis, I love Warren Ellis, but every character he has is pissed off, doesn't really care about anybody, smokes cigarettes, God's bored, all that stuff. And as I've gotten older, I've tried to become less cynical. I like kindness, and it doesn't hurt to be nice.
Right.
Sure.
Right.
But
Quote of the day.
when you're
everyone
young,
out there,
you don't think that way. You think about
all the angsty stuff.
Listen, you've told us about 17 people you hate on this show. Are you sure?
That's really, really cool. Hey, touch
Just
on tell us about the new book that's coming out.
Adventures of Lumen N.
Oh, the Adventures of Lumen N. Well,
you and Phil Hester, man.
Yes, had I thought about it, I would have brought you art. So basically, it's this young girl in India in 1901.
Okay.
And she has this strangely privileged life, living in this big sort of mansion / temple, and she has attendants, but they're friends. I mean, it's a very lovely way to grow up, and there's kids to play with and everything else. But she questions why she's been taught so much about fighting and different languages and all these sort of things that in hindsight she realizes for me to set up to be a Victorian adventuress.
Oh, wow.
And she is attacked by this steampunk group of assassins, and she's saved by... I mean, there's a lot of stuff in the first issue that I'm not.
Yeah, don't give
I'm not
too much
doing
away.
what you did with Mr. Terrific. I'm
Okay.
going to skim over stuff.
Sure.
I'm teasing you. I just watched the
Hey, calm down over there,
My
Shane.
heart started to go. He's going to not do it.
Right. Calm down, Shane. Calm down.
Now you know how we feel about Marcus. He goes copper drop.
Oh man.
So
I'm just kidding, Marcus.
No,
I
you're
love
not.
it, buddy.
The timer is for Mark.
There's why there's a reason there's a timer.
So no, I mean, I would. The thing I will say is the Marcus's depth of description.
No, for sure, yeah.
Showed his love and respect for the comics. So you can.
I know.
There you go.
But
you
the
go.
problem is he didn't win this week. Frank won. Frank won Copper Drop with Ultimate Spider-Man, hands down.
Amazing
I want to throw that in real
Amazing.
fast. There you go. Or Ultimate Spider-Man. Sorry. about
Amazing special.
that. Ultimate Figure. Whatever, dude.
Oh
my
God.
God.
Spider-Man, you won. Okay.
Thanks, man.
Please continue.
So
I love you.
long story short, she is saved at the end by this stranger who arrives with a elephant with Gatling guns strapped to it.
Oh wow.
And and she says, and he says, "You must be Lumen, this old man." And she goes, "Yeah, who are you?" And he says, "I'm your grandfather. I'm Captain Nemo."
Oh wow.
And he has been hiding away, and he's worked out a way to kind of preserve his life because by now he should be dead.
Mm-hmm.
And his son, her father, has gone missing years ago, and there's a villainous cabal of Victorian villains from various Victorian pulp magazines and penny dreadfuls and such that I've put together. Who are I mean, it's a simple story. They're trying to destroy the world, or not control the world. That's wrong. Take over the world, control the world.
Right.
And Nemo undertakes to stop them with a variety of other Victorian heroes. I've been very careful, apart from Nemo, not to have anybody from League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
Right.
And I want it to feel a bit like Leave It to Chance, in that it's this young girl in this incredible world, this time steampunk science fiction, and her sort of coming to terms with that world and embracing it, becoming the heroine she's destined to be. So it's definitely something for, I think, both sexes and all ages. It's not written down, but it's definitely something that will appeal to everybody.
Very cool.
That's great.
You know, and I love Alan's League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, but it is very adult and it's a bit rapey and it's a bit, you know, it's very real.
Right.
And I wanted to have something that's a little bit more fun.
Right.
Right, which is kind of what you were just talking about.
And when will it be out?
It will be out in July.
Okay. All right. We'll definitely be looking out for that. And the fact that you got Phil Hester, I think it was his Green Arrow one with
Kevin Smith.
That where I kind of because he has a very Darwin Cook sort of
Clean line, yes.
clean line noir, but colorful animated style that I love so much. And it was Angelo at Maximum Comics back in the day. That got me. He let me borrow his absolute of that Kevin Smith run of Green Arrow.
That's a limited series. The Lumen N.
No, well, I mean, it's 4 issues.
Okay, cool.
Right.
Dark Horse doesn't do. Honestly, it's a bit annoying. They don't do monthly books, really. They do these mini-series. They see how they do, and then if they don't do well, they tell the artist, you know.
Okay.
And so fingers crossed.
How you describe it, it sounds really cool.
And if they and if they sell, then they'll do more. So hopefully, you know, you'll see more of these books. Otherwise, I'll have to find another publisher.
Okay.
But you know, I dare to dream.
Well, one of the terms we kind of came up with, you know, those of us who read, is the money is in the minis, and it seems like, you know, DC has tried it. Marvel continues to, both DC and Marvel continue to do it, where they will kind of treat the miniseries as like a pilot sort of thing.
Well,
and,
Boom does
you know,
it too.
they'll solicit something initially as a 4 or 5 or 6 issue mini, and we're like, cool. And then as soon as it takes off, like Poison Ivy, it'll take off, you know, and then all of a sudden,
expand on
surprise, we're going to make it a 20. We're going to make it an ongoing.
There's
and,
a counter argument to that. Something that Jeff Johns talked to me about it. He agrees that if you I agree with him. He believes that if you put a book out and you keep it out there, people begin to rely on it, and you have to invest in that book.
Right.
But after a while, that regularity, people begin to get behind it, and that's how, you know, Walking Dead.
Oh yeah.
You know, took off. I mean, and Spawn is still being published. I know you say Todd McFarlane and blah blah blah, but it's 300 and something issues, and it's still being published.
Right.
And that's why those Ghost Machine books, he's very keen to maintain them and keep them out.
Right.
He doesn't want to do a bunch of of Geiger miniseries. He wants to do Geiger issue 37 and have that be the big seller because something big happens in issue 37.
Right.
That whole
That's
The Ghost Machine stuff is
it's
really
been
solid.
great.
Oh,
I'm
yeah,
a
it's been
Rook,
phenomenal.
Redcoat. That's all been fantastic.
Have you been reading it? Have you been
Oh
reading
yeah,
it?
I mean,
What's your
I
favorite?
read all this. I read all this stuff. Yeah, Ghost Machine.
What's your favorite of his? Is it Redcoat? Is it Geiger? Is it
It's
Rook?
It
Exodus?
goes back and forth. If I of Jeff's ones, and he knows this, the one I read, but I don't look forward to it quite as much as the other two is Rook.
Yeah, I like
Yes,
Rook.
I
But-
like Rook a lot.
No, I'm saying that's the one. That's my number 3.
Oh, okay.
I still like it.
And then I go back and forth based on the story arc between Redcoat and, I like that he's kind of trying to show the truth behind a lot of American history too. That it's not all this sugar-coated stars and stripes.
Oh, okay.
I like that.
Yes,
I
yes.
hope if he does the Alamo, he tells that truthfully.
So you're saying
No,
for
that's been
those
solid.
out there who are unfamiliar with Redcoat, you're saying that there's some kernels of truth in his story.
the
building in that.
imperfections of the American voting system and the people, the founding fathers, and all of that.
Right.
It wasn't all perfect.
Right.
And the Alamo. I mean, one of the reasons that they fought with the Mexicans, and I apologize for bringing this up.
No, it's okay, Paul.
But they said, but the Mexicans said, you can't have slaves. We don't have slaves in Mexico. You can't have slaves. And they're like, F you, we want our slaves.
Yeah.
So they were fighting for the freedom of some Americans, but not all Americans.
Okay.
And
Of
course.
that people don't bring that up.
You
know,
okay.
so I hope he
Dave
does. Oh, that's
Oh, bueno.
That's an ongoing gag. we
That's
have
an
on the
ongoing
show.
gag. Before you.
Presidente.
Yeah, before you.
well,
Hi, Pablo.
it's sushi, man. You pull it off. You wear it.
I appreciate that.
Not bad, huh?
Some people would look bad with that on, but you don't.
El Guapo here, or El
Soy
Guapo.
guapo.
Oh, you gotta wear a sombrero more often.
So,
Yeah,
so,
we gotta
so
get
with
you
Jeff, he's like, he's dealing with American history. I like that.
Cool.
And Peter Tomasi, I think, is a fantastic writer. I think he was like the glue. He was the Phil Hartman, to use the SNL analogy.
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
When they were doing, Blackest Night, and he was doing Green Lantern Corps,
Right.
with all those, who cares about Kilowog and Kyle Rayner and those characters, and he managed to make you care about them. Guy
Absolutely.
Gardner.
Absolutely.
So his books are great.
James,
Yes.
one of my wife's favorite SNL cast members, Phil Hartman.
Well,
Oh, absolutely.
Great bring up. there.
yes. He was wonderful.
Wonderful.
Yeah, he
one
was.
of the greatest
His
cast members in history.
talk radio, when he left it killed the show.
Yeah. News radio?
No, it's news radio. That's
News
right.
radio.
The episode where he can't decide what cane to have. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
And at the end, the credits, and there's more canes. So funny. Anyway,
Agreed.
that said,
Agreed, my
Right,
friend.
right. So you and Jeff, still.
Is there any more tequila over there?
Oh yeah, there
Not
is
for you.
one.
Yeah, not for you.
I'm gonna get up.
So
I'm gonna
you,
get up and grab some.
You and Jeff. So you and Jeff still. I take it you guys collaborate or talk about?
well, we don't collaborate, but we
or
talk a lot. We haven't spoken in probably 2 months,
Oh, okay.
but there are times we talk a lot.
Okay.
And if I didn't have more of my own stuff, I would probably be working for Ghost Machine. But I just have too many of my own projects at the moment. We'll see where things go.
Well, that would be cool to see down the line. Someday.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about Ghost Machine is their deal is that you own Ghost Machine. You become part of that. You own shares in it.
yeah.
But you have to kind of commit. That's your thing. I mean, thank you very much. Brian Hitch
Hitch,
and those
yeah.
guys. They're not allowed to do anything else. They work for Ghost Machine.
Well, I remember. I think it might have had something to do with it. Maybe you could tell me whether or not that Last Days of Lex Luthor book came out like a year and a half ago, and Hitch was like, "I am doing other things. Wade is doing other things. I don't know why they put this book out yet because the next two aren't going to come out." And the next two came out like a year and a half later, and the story was great. I really enjoyed it, but it was like he very clearly had something going on. It was probably Ghost Machine, and he was like, "I've got a lot."
I'm sure they, with any of these things, when you sign on to something like that, you legally you have to finish your prior commitments.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that fell under it, but there is a commitment, and it's a good return on your commitment. I mean, Jeff is, apart from being super creative, he's also just like really smart, much smarter than I am. If I had his skills, I wouldn't be living down the road from Usual Place. I'd be living down the road from the Playboy Mansion. So fair enough. He just knows how to do all those things
He's
well.
a great storyteller.
Yeah,
he's a lot of fun to read.
And he's
fantastic.
His Green Lantern run. If anyone's interested in getting into omnibuses, those are usually the omnibuses I recommend. His Green Lantern one was phenomenal.
Every time I go out drinking in the Arts District, I always bump into some guy and he says, "You know what? I'm thinking about getting into omnibuses, but I just don't know where to start."
Yes, Green
And
Lantern.
I say
is
to
what I
him,
say.
"It's fine, man. I've got you. Green Lantern."
Yes.
And then next time that happens, as I'm probably holding back his hair as he vomits in the toilet, I'll give him your phone number.
Do it, please.
You can send him on his way.
Marcus will take that number.
Absolutely. So real quick, because we are getting ready to wrap up. I just,
Oh, really?
yeah,
I'm just having fun here.
that's okay. We,
Go all
we,
night.
we can save the rest of the fun for the next time because you're definitely coming.
Oh, yeah.
we gotta get you back on. But real quick, just to touch on. So, oh my goodness. So you wrote actually. This is actually shout out to Barney. This is Barney from Simpsons Comics. He saved this for me because he knows how big of a Miracle Man fan I am, and to actually track the story of Miracle Man, it's so interesting legally because you're talking about a bunch of guys who basically didn't write anything down. There's a bunch of handshake deals about who owns the property and what goes what, and then Neil Gaiman came in and kind of. It sounds like as a FU to Todd McFarlane said, okay, I'm going to settle this, and finally they got the rights settled, and then ultimately Marvel takes the property ownership. You actually wrote a story in this collection, which honestly is like a overgrown annual, where it's a bunch of different creators and they're writing a bunch of side stories, backup stories, and I just was curious to see how that came apart. Came about.
It came about because Eclipse had it.
Yes.
And again, they were part of that sort of more handshake element with Alan Moore still writing Miracle Man, as it's known in America.
Right, Marvel Man in the UK.
And they would just say, "Hey, you want to, let's do an anthology."
Right.
So it was all handshakes, and there was no royalties because basically Eclipse were a bunch of hippies. And they just kind of did what they felt like doing. I'm not,
right? No, that's perfect.
This is why you are great.
But the strangest part of this, was that back then, this is before the internet. All comic book, not all comic book. That's probably too sweeping, but most comic book opinions in terms of discourse about this book or that book took place in the letters page of the Comics Buyer's Guide.
Okay.
Which was a weekly comic book newspaper with Don and Maggie Thompson, and they would published it for decades.
Okay.
I think until Don died. Very nice man, very nice woman.
Nice.
So the story, and now I look at it, I was very young and I thought, I'll be edgy. I'll be this and that. So it's a story about Kid Marvel Man and him kind of just being an evil asshole.
Right.
But told in a way that also, I haven't looked at that story in 30 years, so I'm remembering it. I hope I'm correct.
Yeah. It feels like it was like a alternate, like if Kid Miracle Man won the fight between Miracle Man and Kid Miracle Man.
It was actually sort of meant to happen before Miracle Man comes back when Kid Miracle Man has free reign.
Okay.
So but in the course of it, you see this sort of idolized version where he woos this nice girl with poetic phrase, and then he actually rapes her.
Right.
And there were women who wrote in upset with the show. It touched off. They'd been raped, and they didn't think that this story should be done.
Right.
Which made me feel terrible. But the editor at the time, I forget her name, female editor, and Kat Ironwood, who was the owner publisher of Eclipse. They responded. I stayed out of it because I wasn't touching that hot potato, even though I quite honestly had actually bought the potato back from Smith's and put it in the oven.
Yeah, you heated the potato.
But they said, well, I was raped, and it doesn't bother me It's a story. And then someone else came in, Kat Ironwood. Well, I was raped too, and it was terrible. So it was like who was raped more raped? It became this oddly odd debate about freedom of expression, dealing with unpleasant stuff. But at the same time, it was just this oddly personal admission debate that went on in the Comics Buyer's Guide, where people are normally discussing how cool Peter David's Mr. Fix-It is. It became a very different kind of magazine for a while. So it's not a story I'm very proud of. I wish there's some stuff when I wrote when I was younger, thinking that it was cool to be, to deal with like unpleasant topics and all of that. And I wish I had been a little bit more adult and known what I was doing at the time.
Well, it kind of fits with Alan Moore's kind of take.
That was the
he was
thing.
very.
I mean,
he
Alan
was
Moore,
very.
That was what I was trying to do, was keep in sync with what he was doing.
Right, and
But
you did.
I could have come up with another idea, and I wish I had now.
Right, right.
James, thank you.
Yeah,
Really
absolutely.
appreciate you hanging out with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, this was a blast, guys.
Were you nervous? Were you nervous?
Yeah.
Were you nervous?
What, about
coming on?
Yeah? No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm a man, dude. I've been around.
Listen, you.
No, I mean,
We know you're a
I
man.
haven't.
When he saw that tequila, I'm sure he was right as rain. You know what I mean? You're damn right.
We got a drinking buddy for you right there, Shane.
Oh,
He's
okay,
got
Shane.
Shane,
He
what
said
do
you
you?
dug Tom Waits. I'm like, yeah. This is
Oh,
my
you like
guy.
Tom Waits too?
Yeah, I
Oh, good.
love Tom Waits. I love, that's what I wanted to ask you. Like that was uncomic book related. Like,
Yeah.
what other music do you dig? But just top three.
Top three: Tom Waits, Tupac,
Nice.
Arctic Monkeys,
Nice.
and then also
Queens of the Stone Age in there.
yeah, Queen of the Stone. Well,
Yeah.
Arctic Monkeys, Queen of the Stone Age,
Yeah.
Miles Kane. It's all that. That world is
Beautiful.
Paul, also, I literally would probably give my life for Paul Weller.
Nice.
okay.
That's I would not. He's old enough. He's lived alone. But I would be very sad when he dies. I also hate the fact he smoked his whole life because he looks like shit. I mean, he does.
Yeah.
That'll do it. Yeah.
He's a few years older than me, and he just looks like he has smoked all his life, and it just bothers me because I don't want the world to be without Paul Weller.
Right. Agreed.
Shane, what do you got for the people?
Hey, I just want to say this has been a fantastic event.
Awesome.
Shane, you're gonna sit next to him next time. We need to. Yeah.
I love
James doesn't know it yet, but Shane is his best friend.
I love Queens of the Stone Age and I love drinking, so we know that. You know,
Oh, serious? You like? Yeah, I love
big fan of Queens of the Stone Age. So
Yeah.
that's all I want to say.
Okay.
All right, cool. Fantastic. That's it.
Marcus, what do you got for people?
I don't think I have anything.
I'll
This
come
has been
back to
amazing.
you.
This is Go ahead. Yeah, come back. To me.
James,
Don't come back to him. He's crazy.
Lumen End, the Adventures of Lumen End to be out. You said July?
Yeah, I think July. Yes.
Okay, cool.
And Los Monsters, more importantly, is out now.
That's right.
Yes, go check it out. It's really
I
good.
hope. Beyond, don't lie. Our relationship's too sweet and new for you to lie. Did somebody give Los Monsters one a good one when it came out, or did?
Oh
We
yeah,
gave it a cop.
Oh yeah, it was very good.
Thank you.
Yeah,
issue 2, 3, 4, they're even better. It builds and builds. You're gonna love it.
I ended up actually when you did the signing at Alternate Reality, I ended up buying the rest of the covers too.
Oh, wow.
Because you're only doing variants for the first issue, right? And
Yes.
then, yeah. And the phenomenal arts.
In full
Phenomenal.
candor, they were meant to be one per issue, but we needed to get the book to sell. So we put them all at once. I hope that works.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Paul,
That's me.
how do they find us in the interwebs?
You find us in the interwebs at @into_comics on Twitter, at Into the West Comics on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pods, TikTok, anywhere else other than Twitter is at Into the West Comics. Twitter is at Into_comics because Twitter's annoying like that. But I want to say I am very excited to read this. I'm a little more of an avid novel reader than everyone else at the table.
Okay,
So I get it first, and I'll get it through in a week or two, and then pass it to.
Oh, absolutely.
But
I do
James,
want to read it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My
hanging.
pleasure. It's been a lot of fun, and
It's been a long time coming.
yeah, but it's a long summer, so if you guys are short of guests in the future, even if I don't have anything coming out, just to talk shit about people, and things.
I know. Get way more into it next time you come.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna fuel that next time.
Yeah,
you
that's
come
right.
with
Get
more.
into the nitty gritty.
There's a point I
It's
come
a sauce.
across.
I agree.
I try and be a
Listen, we're not gonna make
nice
you do that. I just want you to just
We should have
speak
never
your
told
mind.
him it was live.
I just want him to speak his mind. That's all.
Oh, man.
It's great.
But again, we thank our guest, James Robinson, and we appreciate you so much for hanging
Right.
out.
Absolutely.
And, we're going to have you back for sure
Yes.
when we get closer to the release of Adventures Luminen. Guys, if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing. We would appreciate it so much. Have a great evening. It's time we go to the ballet. We're going to go see ballerina.
Love you, Eva.
Guys, have a great evening. We love you. And I'm going to get Shane some water.
I'm drunk.
Fun.